It was good, everybody. I hope to encourage you with this video, just to hold on, just to keep the faith. I know sometimes we could be out here, and sometimes we think that God is not showing up or isn't gonna show up. Sometimes we think that we might be asking for too much, but you know, if you have faith and you hold on to that faith, that's what God sees, and God rewards those that diligently seek Him. I think it says that in Hebrews that that without faith, that's what it says. Hebrews 11 6, that it's impossible to please God without faith, and that He rewards those that diligently seek Him. That's what it was. I've been a stay-at-home dad since my son has been born. My previous job, they lost the contract the day before my son was born. So my original plan, my son would get born, I'll stay out of work until about 4 months, something like that. Try to get back to work, but it came, and my wife went to work, and I still didn't have a job. And then another month, and another month, and another season, and then another season, all the way to here we are now, 17 months. And it's definitely um been rough. I feel like even me, like, feeling like a man, I didn't feel like a man because my wife was going out working and I was home with my son. And I spoke with people, and they valued and honored that I was taking care of the home. My wife, she didn't have to cook, she didn't have to clean, stuff like that. I held it down to the best of my ability. And they would tell me, that's honorable. But all the time I just felt like, all right, I guess. But my wife and I have a flip flop where she was working, and I'm like, dang, I want to work. I'm at home. She like, dang, I want to be home. I want to spend that time. I want to raise him up, and this, that, and the third. So we had the flip flop drain. It brought a lot of tension, a lot of arguments and stuff. I don't want to say finger pointing, but insecurities definitely on my end, because I'm like, I don't even feel like a man, like, for real. So it's been a long 17 months, but no matter what, like I said, it's a roller coaster of faith. Some days you up, some days you low. But one thing that I do give myself credit for is I kept coming back to God. God is my foundation. Christ is my foundation. And um I think I just kept coming back to him because deep down I'm like, nah, I gotta believe he's gonna pull through. Because I know what I'm asking for. Me asking for a job is not something sinful. It's not against his will. So I'm like, all right, boom, I'm good there. I prayed and asked God for a job. I could earn good money. I could elevate in the company, good work environment. I could be impactful. Um, and I could excel at the position. I'm like, I'm gonna be good at it. And so a lot of jobs I applied to, a lot of jobs I didn't hear back from, no interviews. Jobs I did get interviews for, it went nowhere. And I didn't get selected. But I always prayed, like, God, if this isn't gonna be good for me and my family, don't let me get an interview. So I guess that explains why I didn't get the interviews. It's either that or those jobs didn't meet the qualifications that I asked God to bless me with. So it was up and down because I'm like, dang, am I asking for too much? Dang, like, why is nobody giving me a shot? Like, I know I'm not a bad worker. Like, I'm more than what this resume says. I just need somebody to give me a shot. Um, and so I went through that up and down, but I stayed in the faith and I kept the faith, and God rewarded that. So there was a point in time over the last, like, weeks ago, um, I got an interview. It was about a month ago, actually. By the time y'all see this, I got an interview. So I'm like, all right, boom, I got the interview. That's good. But I'm like, I got interviews before and it went nowhere. But I went on the interview. I handled my business. But as I was talking and I'm listening and looking people in their eye and stuff, I'm like, no, I kind of vibe with this. I vibe with the people that's interviewing me because they're going to be my managers. So I'm like, all right, I'm cool with that. I feel comfortable. And then after that, in the middle of the conversation, when I got to ask my questions, I asked about when they're filling the position, and they told me by the time the background checks and everything is done, it could be 2 to 3 months. So I was like, "Oh snap, yo, God, you moving like that? Like, you know what I'm saying?" So I got hype in my spirit because I'm like, "Yo, if this is really God, yo, this would be crazy." So after that, I got the job. So I'm like, all right, cool. So God is giving me a job. Like he answered my prayer. But then they told me they need me to start like in a couple of weeks. I did my background check, and then it was like, yo, we need you to start in a few weeks. So I'm like, yo, I can't do a 2 week turnaround. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Like, why is it a rush? And they told me 2 to 3 months. So I spoke with my wife, and I had to still do my physical, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do a physical if the Lord doesn't make it clear that this is the job. So me and my wife, we came up with a date, and we asked them about the date after we prayed on it and stuff like that, and they said, nah, we can't move the date. We need you to start at this particular time. I was like, dang. So is this God saying no? This is not the move. Because how did I get the job? It passed the first barrier of God, if it's not your will, don't let me get the job. Don't let me get the interview. Now I did the interview, check. Got the job, check. So I'm like, so what does this mean now? So I was feeling a little discouraged because I was unclear. I didn't know what was going on. And then my wife, my mom-in-law sent me a sermon, and I was listening to the sermon, and I just felt like I need to start fasting. And the sermon was talking about faith. And it was funny because this was after my wife asked me, what have you been asking God for? Have you been asking him for faith? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, yo, that's why we in this situation. He's forcing you to be a man of faith. So that's why all of this stuff is looking rushed or it's looking unclear. Now you got to decide we're going to trust God or not. I was like, dang, she got a point. I've been bull jiving, just saying, Lord, I'm praying and asking that you will help me to walk by faith and not by sight. Like I was saying it to be cute. And now I'm in a situation where I really got to put the big boy pants on and prove that I'm a man of faith. So after that, I'm like, I think a day passed. I'm like, all right, Lord, if my wife says she want to still go, we'll go. I'm going to go. Because I think moving and going and taking this job has more upside. And the reason why I needed God, I asked the job, we prayed about that date, was because I wanted to know no matter what happens when we move, that God authorized this. He put his stamp of approval on this. Because when stuff get tough, what are you leaning on? For me, I know I'm leaning on Christ. Christ is my foundation. But I also know God put me here. So it don't matter when the going gets tough. I know he put us here. All right, so that gives me peace of mind to know I didn't put my family in a bad situation because something looked good. And like they say, every good move ain't a God move. A good thing might not be a God thing. So I was like, all right, cool. So we gonna do it. We'll go. Um, I did a fast that day. My wife had got home. Um, and I was praying while she was in the shower. I was praying, and I got finished with that prayer. All I was doing that day was sermons, gospel, pray. After, and I was just like, you know what? That's when I decided. I was like, yeah, God, if my wife says she still wants to take a chance, we'll go. I get out of that prayer. I look at my phone, see I got an email from the company, and they say, "Oh, we just spoke with the managers, and they said they could do that date you wanted." But I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, this date is 2 days after the one I requested." I said, "God, yo, you don't play." I was so like, I went and told my wife, and she was like, "Bae." She was like, "Bae, like, are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, look." And I showed her the email. Our hearts were jumping for joy. Um, and it was just like, I was at a point, I remember I was telling my wife the night before, after they told us they couldn't move the date. I was like, you know what? Maybe God doesn't care about where we go. Maybe he don't care about this. This ain't really a big thing. If we were created for God's glory, I can do that at any job. I can do that in any state. I can do that anywhere, because it's not about what I do or where I go, but it's about who I am when I show up in those places. Am I showing up with the love of Christ? Am I showing up being as an ambassador of Christ? Am I really showing people and displaying Christ when I show up to a place? A job is just a means to put food on the table. It doesn't necessarily define you, and it doesn't, so I was thinking like that. So I thought God didn't care. But when I got that email, I was like, well, I guess I'll never say that again. And my wife, she had on the whiteboard this, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's Nahum 1:7. Um, that the Lord God is good and present help in the time of trouble, and that he cares for those that put their trust in him. Oh, I said a present help, a refuge in times of trouble. He cares for those that trust in him. So I'm like, all right, well, we just gonna trust God. We gonna see what happens. And so I guess he did care. So I know for y'all might be thinking he doesn't care, or maybe I'm dreaming too big or whatever like that. But if you have faith, and like they say, faith without works is dead. I think um me and my wife reached a place where, honestly, whether we stayed or whether we went, we were gonna live by faith. We on one income. So we was gonna be walking by faith. But, the move had a lot of unknowns, and we weren't comfortable because of the unknowns. Versus down here, you got family. We already got through all of this time on one income, so kind of comfortable. So, the move, I was very skeptical about it, because I'm like, I don't know. Like, honestly, I was thinking, what if we leave and we're wrong? But now I know God authorized this, so we weren't wrong. So whatever this is happening, God foreknew this. He knew this. So I really hope this encourages y'all to let you know that God cares about you, you know, and that we shouldn't worry about how things are gonna turn out. Christ told us, how does worrying add a cubit to a man's stature? And as we know, like, he dresses the lilies, uh, the fowls of the air, feeds them. They don't, you know, we're greater creations than them, but yet we worry. And that's obviously a paraphrase, but, you know, it just was something I was like, yeah, man, I gotta just surrender to God and trust that everything's gonna work out according to his plan. And now me and my family can walk into that. And the thing about faith, sometimes you got to take a step in order for God to reveal the next step. So, keep the faith. Don't let the devil get you tweaked. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't let him have you out here, like, giving up. Don't give up. Keep praying, keep fasting, and keep trusting God. You know what I'm saying? So, um, eventually that time is going to come when he's going to reveal to you what it is you've been asking for. Just make sure you're ready, because sometimes God will give us something. He'll give us an answer. He'll give us a blessing. But because we don't like how it's wrapped, we don't really receive it. So just be ready for that. So I hope this video is a blessing. I hope it encourages y'all, for real. I just wanted to give that. I've been doing a lot of stay-at-home dad content. I wanted to give this little update about how God showed up and answered the prayer. And it took time. It took a long time. 17 months of feeling inadequate, feeling insecure, not feeling like a man, questioning my faith. Some days I'm up, some days I'm down. But God was faithful. And I still don't know why it was me at home and not my wife. But I'm sure one day we're going to look back and say, God, that's why you did it like that. Or we're going to see the benefits of this season. So, yeah, man. So anyway, y'all stay up, stay blessed, peace and love, and may the Lord be with you.